I'm working on a piece of work. It's called From Badr to Uhud. The idea that the ummah have gone through Badr and Uhud moments, right? So, for example, in 1071, Manazgir, and we spoke about this before, Al-Parsalan, defeats the Byzantines. And that is the first time that we see that the Byzantines have been defeated in this manner by a Sunni Muslim entity. And this is the Seljuks. And the Seljuks re-established a normative understanding of Sunni Islam in the region. At the time, there was the Buyids and the Fatimids and so forth, right? And they bring a particular understanding of Sunni Islam back on the map. You start to see the emergence of Nizam al-Mulk, and then you see the emergence of Imam Juwaini and Imam Ghazali and so on, right? And they're writing works now on these questions. So they're not only writing works on Tasawwuf and so forth, they write works on political authority and power. They're also petitioning the Khalifa in Baghdad. So that's your Badr moment. 20 years later, in 1099, you have the Crusaders and they invade Bayt al-Maqdis. So you have a Badr moment, an extreme moment of victory, and then you have this Crusader moment. And Al-Hawari, the alim at the time, shaves off his head, wears black robes, ties stones to his stomach, walks to Baghdad, and says to the Khalifa, this is what's happening, telling them that women and children are being butchered and killed, and says that there was not a single person in the room that wasn't left in tears. And then says to him, like, what's happened to the Persians? What's happened to the Arabs? When did we become so weak? What good are your tears to me now? Do something. That's your Uhud moment. We don't get the Badr moment until 90 years later in 1188 with Salahuddin Ayyubi. So understand, you're talking about 100 years, right? So Salahuddin doesn't emerge until another 90 years. For 90 years is a cross on Aqsa. For 90 years is a horse stable. For 90 years, Muslims, Jews, and Christians are being subjugated by the Crusaders in the region. But Salahuddin's victory is a Badr moment. All right, so Salahuddin is now brought Aqsa into the fold, back into Islam. And what happens 50 years later? The Mongol invasion. And the Mongols absolutely decimate the region. I mentioned about 1453, Fatih conquers Constantinople. And for the first time, a center of Christendom is now part of the Muslim world. That is your Badr moment. 20 years later, Muslims are being kicked out of Spain, right? The point I'm making about this narrative that I'm trying to construct for you is the ummah kept going. I mean, at the time, like Hudaybiyah, the Muslims are in pain, they're suffering. We have to be steadfast. And this is why I went back to Surah Nasr about steadfastness is not just the everyday steadfastness, is that the ummah has to be steadfast from generation to generation. And that victory, the Nasr of Allah Ta'ala, is not what we perceive as being victory, but what Allah Ta'ala perceives as victory. And so even though 100 years feels like a long time, in the grand scheme of history, it's not a long time at all. And that changes happen when Allah Ta'ala starts lifting veils. And in our generation, in my generation at least, I can tell you the lifting of particular veils. 9/11 was one. The atrocities in Bosnia was another. The so-called Arab Spring is another. And now October 7. And what this does is it creates a particular accumulation in which you start to see a new generation of people with that level of information available to them and say, okay, we need to go again, right? In that sense. So I don't have that concern personally, because Islamic history has shown me the fact that the idea still resonates and is still relevant in the minds of Muslims 100 years later tells me something, that they were unable to eradicate this concept and idea in this way, because fundamentally you have to reconfigure Islam totally.